So we're just giving everybody a moment to get on the line. While we do that, if it's available to you, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. You can share your name and where you're joining from, and feel free to share the traditional lands you're joining from. My name is Jessie Veenstra. I'm the Director of Farm to Cafeteria Canada. I'm coming to you today from the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations, otherwise known as Vancouver, British Columbia. And super excited to be here with all of you. And we've got a few more people still joining on the line. So we'll give everyone a moment to get settled and then we'll dive in. Excellent, welcome. We've got Webakwe, Treaty 4 in Regina. It's great to see so many folks from coast to coast joining today. Okay. Well, it is 12:01 for me, a minute past the hour or half hour, depending on where everyone is joining from. So I think we'll get started. Our goal today is really just to first and foremost welcome all of you to the 2022 Farm to School Canada grant cycle. Provided some hopefully inspiration and ideas just to kind of get creative juices flowing, and also an opportunity to ask some questions. So we've got some folks that have been involved in past grant recipient cycles here to share a little bit about their work and answer any questions. So it should be a fun sort of next hour and a bit. If you're just joining us, welcome. Welcome. Jessie Veenstra. If everyone can put themselves on mute, perfect there. Just a little bit of feedback there. Yeah, my name is Jessie Veenstra. I'm the Director for Farm to Cafeteria Canada. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. See, we've got lots of folks sharing where they're joining from. Super exciting to have you all here. So without further ado, I'm going to advance on our slides here. We've just got a couple of housekeeping items that we figured we would cover early on while everybody is fresh here. So if I can figure out how to work my computer, there we go. I will advance our slides. So first and foremost, I just wanted to let everybody know that we're excited. October is just around the corner and it is Farm to School Month. So for those that this is maybe new to, every year we host Farm to School Month throughout the month of October, and the goal is really just to bring awareness and celebrate all of the great sort of school food and food literacy work that's happening across the country to get students connected to food and where it comes from in their communities. And so this year our theme is Food Connects, so celebrating all of the many ways that food can connect us to the world around us. So we'll be celebrating this throughout the month of October and actually building on this theme for the rest of the school year. So we'll have more information coming out about this next week in our October newsletter. So feel free to follow us on social media, check out the newsletter to learn more about how you can get involved and celebrate the theme in your own communities. Other things we just wanted to touch on in addition to today's session. So I spoke about Farm to School Month already. We do have sort of a part 2 of welcome and training for new grant recipients happening in a few weeks' time. And we sort of structured that today's session is to kind of get folks inspired, thinking about your projects and maybe what questions are starting to percolate for you. So we'd love if you can connect with your teams between now and October and then come back with any questions, ideas, concerns that you have. And that session on the 18th is where we're going to do kind of a deeper dive, have more opportunity to kind of connect and brainstorm with each other. We also have some other things happening, Indigenous School Food webinar series, which may be of interest for folks. There's a link and we'll send a follow-up email with links to information about all of this, but that is something that we are co-hosting with a number of partners throughout the month of October. So we're excited to bring that. It's of interest. We'll share more information about that and how you can get connected and participate. For those who are in BC, if you're interested, there is an in-person professional development day happening at Reynolds Secondary School in Victoria about growing school farms. So if that's of interest and you're in the province of BC, we can share more information about how you can register and participate in that. And then a little bit further out, we'll be continuing to share information about other regional and national events that are happening throughout the school year. Got lots of fun things planned and hopefully opportunities to bring folks together to share and connect in the great work that you're all doing. So with that, I'll revisit this at the end, but basically after today's session, we'd love if you could just complete a quick questionnaire for us, because that's going to help us inform and structure what we'll be sharing on and talking about on the October 18th. We invite you to check out our resource center as well if you haven't already, and offer any feedback. There'll be a spot where you can do that in the survey. And then really importantly, as I mentioned, meet with your team in your school community to identify any kind of things that you maybe want to talk about at upcoming sessions. Last but not least, if you haven't registered for the 18th or somebody from your team hasn't who would be participating, please do that. But again, we'll send all of this out in an email afterwards with the appropriate links and things. So with that all being said, welcome to folks who are just joining. Feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. I'm now going to hand it over to my colleague Carolyn Webb, and she's going to kick us off for some great presentations.
Thanks so much, Jessie. And if you can keep an eye on the people coming in the waiting room, that'd be great. So just a big hello. It's exciting. I see we're up to 37 participants. So awesome to see so many of you on the call from across the country. As Jessie said, my name is Carolyn. I have been a part of this work with Farm to Cafeteria Canada since 2016. Initially supporting the grantee schools, the first round of grantee schools in Ontario. I'm joining from the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe, where I live, work, play in Ottawa. And yeah, I will just help to kind of moderate our speakers and the conversation today. So what we have is we've had 4 speakers join us who have been involved with different rounds of the grants, and they'll just speak to share their experience, and then we'll have about a 20-minute period for question and answer. And as Jessie said, then some homework, and then we'll come back for more discussion and that. So just trying to think if there's any other housekeeping things I need to say. I don't think so. Just really excited to be here and to have our speakers share all this info with you. So the 4 folks who have wonderfully volunteered to share their experiences today, I'll just give a very quick line about them and they can all introduce themselves in turn. But Chantal Belanger is a public health dietitian, and she's been quite involved with 2 2016 grantee high schools in the Sudbury region of Ontario. Maureen Zutz is a teacher at Skeetcheston Community School in Savannah, BC, who received a grant in 2020. Jenny Wheeler manages the food service at Waterloo Elementary in Waterloo, Quebec, and they received a Salivare grant in 2018. And then Elizabeth Smith is a public health dietitian who supported a grantee high school in Hamilton, Ontario, one of the 2018 recipients. And so they'll give their presentations, speak for 8 to 10 minutes each. If you have any questions, you could either write them in the chat box and I'll collect them and ask them at the end, or the speakers might be able to answer them during the presentations. If you want to raise your hand at the end to ask a question during the question period, that's also possible. So, yeah, I think with that, I will just open it up for Chantal to start us off.
Perfect. Thank you, Carolyn. So hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, and I'm excited to share with you my experience. So as Carolyn said, my name is Chantal Belanger, and I am a registered dietitian that works in public health. So for public health Sudbury districts in the Sudbury region, which is on the traditional lands of the Robinson-Huron Treaty in Treaty 9. So our organization was actually one of the co-applicator, not with just one, but 2
Everybody's
schools.
doing journaling.
with not just one, but two schools in the Sudbury region. So those two high schools were École Secondaire Hanmer and École Secondaire McDonald-Cartier, who are both from the same public French school board. So combined, these schools have about 630 students from grade 7 to 12. So about 170 at Hanmer and 460 at McDonald-Cartier. So fairly small high schools, maybe in comparison to other regions. So both of them received their grant as a joint application. And I think I'll let Carolyn and Jesse probably speak to this afterwards, but I don't think that's an option anymore. But anyways, it was an option back in 2016. So just to give a little bit of landscape of how the city of Greater Sudbury, where it is. So it's located in the most southern part of Northern Ontario. So it's about 4 hours north of Toronto. I would say we're a mid-sized city, about 160,000 residents. In one of the largest cities in Northern Ontario, and we both have urban and rural living areas. So one of our high schools is located in that in more of a rural, and the other one more in the urban setting. And then maybe some of you know, Sudbury is very known for its mines. We have our big nickel for a reason. We mine a lot of nickel, so we're very much of a mining town. And just a fun fact that less than 1% of our land here is dedicated to farming. So I would say that agriculture sector is present in our area, but definitely not a main sector for us. And since 2016, I'm happy to report there has been improvements, and you'll hear a little bit about some of the challenges we face throughout, but we are persevering through them. So the reason why we had applied for the Farm to School grant is really because, so one of our high schools, École Secondaire Hanmer, had applied. We have in our city, we have this, what we call the ugliest schoolyard contest. It's a positive thing. So we grab schoolyards in our communities and we turn them into beautiful spaces. So they had kind of turned an old tennis court that wasn't being used into a kind of a community garden with raised garden beds. So the next thing we wanted to do was kind of bring food from the community garden into the school. So when this grant came up, we decided that we wanted to apply. To be able to reach the school, we knew that we needed to get our cafeteria provider involved. So I think we are lucky and kind of a unique in this position. So our cafeteria provider is an independent contractor, and she serviced both of our high schools and also had a passion for locally fresh, nutritious foods to be inside of school. So we knew we had to get her involved, and we knew if we had one high school involved, we knew it would impact the other one. So we wanted to really implicate both high schools into this project and really start a salad bar program in both areas. So that's kind of like the landscape of why we kind of applied. So some of the challenges we face, we quickly learned that, and I'm sure that it's been shared with you guys, that your food procurement can't only rely on a community garden that's maybe located in the community or the schools, that you really have to build partnerships with your farmers. And we also knew that we wanted to do that to be able to increase the amount of the percentage of local foods in our schools. So we wanted to build strong partnerships with local farmers to make it just more sustainable. So when I started off on this journey, I was brand new to public health. This was actually my first assignment. And to be honest, I knew very minimally about farmers in our area, and so did our farm to school team. So we ended up picking a farmer that was about 75 minutes away from our school to be our main farmer. And the plan was that one of the school staff lived near there, so he was going to transport the food over to the school. So that was one source of local food we were going to use. And then the other, we have we used to have, I should say, a local food cooperative called Eat Local Sudbury that also kind of hosted local food there all year long. So unfortunately, in 2018, everything kind of started falling apart because Eat Local Sudbury closed its doors. Our plan with the school staff picking up food from the farmer wasn't really working out very well. So we kind of had to restart kind of from scratch for our farmers. So that was one unfortunate thing. And I think if I have a little tip to share is that if you can find a farmer that can deliver to you or find a delivery process that can bring it to the school, it's probably the best way to go. In theory, it sounds nice that a school staff would pick up things and bring it to the school, but we know that can cause a lot of issues. So that would be one of my tidbits for all of you. And to be completely honest with everyone here, so we are in 2022 and we're still looking for that strong farming partnership at this point. So we do buy from some local farmers. Luckily in Sudbury, we actually have a new kind of farming business called Truly Northern Farms, where they have an indoor hydroponic greenhouse that grows leafy greens. So we definitely purchase our greens from them, but we're kind of still looking for something that can add a little bit more variety to our local food. So something that we are still working on. And then with all challenges also come successes. And this one might seem a little contradictory to say, because I think one of our greatest successes are community partnerships, minus the farmers, the farming aspect of it. So as I said earlier, so the primary reason why we applied to this grant was to get really food from the garden into the school. That was kind of our main goals. So, so our first year or two when we started this, things were going well. We had a lot of community partners or volunteers in the community, either growing food for us or donating a percentage of their food from their garden beds to us. So this included like the Golden Age clubs, a few of the daycares, and specifically a non-for-profit kind of grassroots organization called Sudbury Shared Harvest. So, and kind of what they did, they helped us out. They grew some food. They offered also to help us like prepare the food to keep, to like freeze it and preserve it so it could be used in the cafeteria throughout the winter months. So they were utilizing actually the cafeteria in Hanmer to do this, just because they had a large industrial inspected kitchen due to their hospitality and tourism high skills majors program. So that was a big benefit to us. So we had a space to kind of do all that preserving. But really over the years, our partnership with Sudbury Shared Harvest has really flourished. So as I said, they were able to grow us some food, and as kind of they grew as an organization, they received funds and were actually able to build a large in-ground garden just behind the community garden, and also develop this food forest that's on the grounds now of the school. So kind of a second piece to that is that they started a program called YAM, which stands for Youth Agriculture Mentorship Program. So they were actually able to hire students from the high school. I think there's about 5 of them so far that have been hired that work throughout the summer months in the community garden, and they're learning about agriculture. So, and even actually one of the students has graduated, has moved on to post-secondary learning about agriculture just because of the passion that she found working for this program. So I think this is one of our greatest successes. I think it's really important to kind of connect with those community partners, see what's out there, how can we support each other. I don't think Sudbury Shared Harvest either would be as growing, as flourishing if they didn't build that partnership with the school board. So some really great things are coming out of there. And also, okay, sounds good. I'm just about done. So another thing too that Sudbury Shared Harvest has also helped us out with is like food literacy lessons. Sorry, the lights keep flickering on and off here. So yeah, so they've been able, so they've been integrating a lot more of like food literacy lessons, showing teachers how to integrate lessons into the garden. So there has been also another great partnership there. So I think for next step for us of what we really want to do, I think is just continue to build partnerships with Sudbury Shared Harvest. Also being able to apply kind of those same, that can give that same experience to our other high school, because I know we haven't mentioned them as much, but we're really hoping to have like kind of sprout that over there. One other thing too, again, pandemic, a lot of things have been slow, so we haven't had a consistent salad bar program in the school. So we're hoping to restart that. And then one other thing, and of course, well, yes, is develop more local farmer partnerships to increase the amount of local foods. So I think my overall takeaway that I wanted to share with everyone, it's go slow and remember that it's really normal, I think, to not do everything that you set out to do. I definitely got carried away with wanting to do more that I or our team could chew off. But so we are the 2016 grantees. We're in 2022, and our program is still not what maybe we envisioned it to be. But I think every step that you take, whether it's forward or backwards, always leads you to new avenues to the next step. So just take it slow and be kind to yourself if things don't work out as planned.
Thanks so much, Chantal. Really appreciate all
problem.
those lessons and that you touched on both challenges, but also left us with the high points and successes. And yeah, I think that tip about going slow is one I hear a lot, and that, yeah, people, but neat that you could see your program kind of gradually come along, and yeah, the different pieces put on along the way. And there's a question for you in the chat box. So just a big thank you so much. And we will move on to our next speaker now. So I'll ask Maureen to share. Maureen, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maureen Zoots. I'm a teacher at the Scarecrow Community School, which is a First Nations school in the interior of British Columbia. So it's about an hour away from Kamloops, if you know where that is, or if you don't, that's okay. But yeah, so we're in the sunny interior of this province, and we're very fortunate. We've had pretty good success with our farm to school program. About the third year I'd been here, so about 2012, someone from Agriculture BC came to the school to do a presentation, and what they basically said was, there's funding available for anything from a backyard garden to a full-scale commercial operation related to agriculture for First Nation communities. And so that kind of sparked a lot of our interest. And then over the years, staff came and went, and nothing much happened. And then we applied in, I think it was 2016 or 17, and we received our initial funding. And I just put a PowerPoint together that I can share with you. Skeetcheston is, like I say, it's just about an hour from Kamloops. It's a small community, about 500 residents. The weather here is just amazing, and we had someone come and visit with us and give us some lessons, and he just said, whatever you want to grow, it'll grow. And there's a photo here of our valley. It is semi-arid, so we do have some challenges related to water at times, either too much or sometimes not enough, and that has affected, some of the times it has affected our garden.
Maureen, I'm just wondering, are you trying to show your PowerPoint right now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we can't see it. If you go down to the bottom of Zoom, there's...
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries, thank you. There's a little green button that says share screen.
Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry.
Oh, perfect.
I did so much Zoom during COVID.
That's perfect.
I've lost it all.
We can also see the panel of images down the side. You could either put it into presentation mode, or you can leave it like that. Either is fine. But
oh, okay. So that's the slide. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah.
You can just leave it as is. I think we'll be good. Oh,
so there's our valley.
Nice.
So the chief and council got behind this with relation to this was always a growing community. People had gardens, people had fruit trees, and it just fell off because, you know, people had to leave the community for work, or they just didn't have the skills or knowledge or time to devote to it. And with regard to our school, we used to send our students away to school in Savinaw, which is about 15 minutes down the road. And so the school is quite a source of pride for the community as well. And yeah, it's a beautiful building. That's it there. So kind of nestled in. We had fires in 2021, and some of the trees you see now are actually have been burnt. So that's how close the fires got, unfortunately. But they worked really hard and saved our school. So we've got 12 raised beds and a food forest here on site. And our fruit trees are almost ready to bear fruit. It'll be probably the best year to come will be next year. We have a guild system, it's terraced, and so water will drain off in the most beneficial way. And the plants are planted in accordance with a guild system, so everything benefits each other and everything attracts beneficial insects and those pollinators that are so important, and reduces weeds and different things like that. There's a picture of our food forest. So as you can kind of tell, it's on the side of a hill and there's just paths in between. So there's berries, every kind of pear, peach, fruit, apple, cherry, all kinds of trees. So that's just so exciting. But it's not something you can do off the side of your desk. When we first started, there wasn't even water to our outside that we could use. So we were hauling buckets of water back and forth to our greenhouse, and then everything would just kind of die in a hot, long weekend when no one's here to water. So we reached out to Quench Teen Health, which supports our local First Nation, and a dietitian and a permaculture designer came and saw what was happening, and they really wanted to get on board and help us. And that's really what had to happen, because it just, when trying to teach and trying to do all this, it would be almost impossible, I think. You know, there's never enough time just in a regular teacher's life. So with this added on, it was a lot for us to try and do. So yeah, so this is the plan. It's got, the future is to hopefully do something similar to what Chantel was saying, where we can train students and give them high school level credits, maybe even in the future university level credits towards agricultural degrees or diplomas. So there's some of that has already started as far as our infrastructure. We've got a tanning shack. I'll just scroll down to the bottom because I got some pictures today. Let's see here. Oh, and I don't know where they went. Oh, there we go. There's a tanning shack and a smokehouse, and this gray building is a root cellar. These have just been constructed, and the root cellar is going to be covered over with earth, so it will maintain that cool temperature. And it's obviously built from concrete. So that's something that's just happened. With regard to those projects, that's partnering with Thompson Rivers University. So they have a Partners in Trade program that supports Indigenous communities throughout the Secwepemc Nation. So 17 different bands in the interior of BC. And they will go around and they will create structures and train people that would like to attain those skills. So it was kind of a really wonderful win-win situation where we had community members that were coming up, and at the end of the program, they had a ticket of their trades skills that they can go and apply for jobs in other areas or whatever it is they want to do. Just another schematic of what the plan is. So we've got the school, the food forest, and then more plans for our future. This is just an example of a pretty amazing resource that was created by some people at University of British Columbia. It has every kind of lesson and really wonderful projects and activities for students to learn and enjoy the garden. With regard to benefits for students, it's almost you know, it doesn't even really need to be said. There's just everything about it is great. It's kind of hard to get them to listen when they're outside because they kind of just want to run around and have a good time. And so you have to be, you know, have a good plan in place of what your lesson's going to be. And then sometimes you can just let them explore too, of course, because that's important too.
2 minutes, Corey.
Okay, sure.
Great.
Yeah, if you've got those children that are struggling readers, or, you know, but they have skills that can shine in the garden and they're showing an interest, then it's just wonderful. Just a sample of what we've used in our school program and our food program. We do breakfast, lunch, and snack for our students every day. We'll be harvesting water with these cisterns that you see, because we do have fairly low rainfall. And then just a couple of pictures of our kiddos, the greenhouse there in the background. And it has really affected our community in a positive way. We had a fish camp down at the river last month, the month of September, the first week. So a lot of the students were there with their families, harvesting fish, canning it on site, smoking and drying the fish. That's the first time that's happened in this community. So it was really wonderful to see. Indigenous food security is a huge, huge buzzword at the moment, and it's gaining ground all the time. This community also just did an event last night, part of a series where they were canning tomatoes and canning salsa just at our band office gym, where there's a big kitchen there as well. And yeah, some community members and a couple more pictures of what we've got happening here at our school. So it's, yeah, I don't think it's been without its challenges, but I think the message that I would like to leave you with is it does take a team, and it's a lot for one or two people to take on, but even if you just have a little bit, you know, at least you're starting. And yeah, I'm really excited about the future for Sketcheston, and I just think that, you know, the hard part's over. We've got the buy-in from the community, and it's gonna carry on hopefully for many, many years, and hopefully generations to come. So that's that. Whoopsie.
Thank you so much, Maureen. It's so inspiring what you folks have done, and especially during COVID times. I know it was a really tough grant cycle year for your whole group, and so yeah, but just thanks for sharing everything today.
You're so welcome.
There's also some really great videos that the community and a learning circle that Sketcheston Community School was part of, that the videos are online, and I'll share the link in a moment. So yeah, just a big thanks, Maureen, for sharing those. And yeah, we can ask you some questions at the end. So thanks.
Welcome.
I'll pass the floor over to Jenny, if that works. Jenny, would you like to share?
Hi, sorry, I'm in the car.
No
So anyway,
worries.
yeah, she's
now
like, I'm
okay,
gonna
or do
come
you want to
back
go in 10
for
minutes?
follow-ups. I guess that was what she was talking about.
Okay.
So I'll book.
Sorry, can you guys hear me? Because I really can't hear you very well.
Yeah, we can hear you well.
Okay. So my name's Jenny. I actually am in charge of the cafeteria at Waterloo Elementary School here in Quebec. Have started the cafeteria in 2014, and I had noticed at a camp that my kids went to that they had a salad bar, but it was like literally just like with ice packs on a table with dishes. And so I started doing that at the school, and then I started working with a nutritionist and stuff like that, and she is actually the one that found the grant for me, because I did not know that grants like this existed. So it was really great working with her to be able to get the grant. Now, with COVID, we had a little bit of issues with everything with the salad bar, so I'm trying to get it back up and going. Right now, we're only doing it once a week, which we were doing it 5 days a week. But where we were getting all our vegetables and stuff, they closed on us, so I can't. I'm looking for some new places to get our local stuff. Also, we really put the salad bar in the school to do like a little bit of programs with the kids. So we are an elementary school, so of course we don't have the younger ones help out in the kitchen with us, but we have the bigger ones that will come in and cut up the vegetables for the day. They really enjoy it, actually. It's like I think it's because they get out of class, but it's really enjoyable for them. We are looking into a garden because we do not have a garden yet. We were looking into getting the garden before COVID hit, and then because COVID hit, the principal kind of put it on a standstill. So we are looking into doing something like that. I do know that she's talking about more of an indoor garden. I don't know if anybody has the indoor gardens, but I'm really interested in seeing how that would work. I don't know much more what to say other than it's been a really great program. Very happy to have gotten the grant, even though the kids thought it was a popcorn machine when we got the salad bar. So if anybody is starting their salad bar at school, the only thing I can say, and I believe the rest said the same thing, is the community needs to help each other. The staff needs to help each other because it can't be done just by one person.
Thanks so much for sharing, Jenny. And Jenny, we actually interviewed Jenny and the nutritionist at their school, Eileen, for some videos with top tips, and those are in the resource center that we can put a link to, so you can hear more tips from Jenny there as well. Yeah.
I would have liked to show you more pictures, but I'm kind of like on, like you see, I'm in the car right now.
Yep.
Like I'm
Yep.
all over the place. So I'm doing 2 schools now. So it's just, but I would have loved to show you the before and the after, but I just didn't get to that point. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Really great to have you here, Jenny. And what we can do is, if you do want to share some photos, we could put them maybe in a PowerPoint or just a PDF and put it online and share it with people, or we could, yeah, find some way to share it out afterwards. Or yeah, but I think just a big thank you. And during the Q&A period, people can ask questions and you can respond to a few more things then. So thanks for joining us while you're in the car. And yeah, I think just really appreciate that you can share some of your experience. Super. All right. I think we'll go into our last speaker, Elizabeth, and then we'll open it up for Q&A with everybody.
Hi, everyone. My name's Elizabeth Smith, and I'm a public health dietitian for the city of Hamilton, which is in Southern Ontario. I don't know if you're, it's not, people are here from all across the country, so Hamilton is kind of around the corner from Toronto, around Lake Ontario, and then on the way to Niagara Falls. It's a very industrial city. We have 2, maybe I think there used to be 3 steel mills there, but there's 2 that are still in operation. And we're also surrounded by the escarpment. So we're also surrounded by a lot of farming and green space and things like that. I was one of the public health supports for a grant application from one of the Catholic high schools in Hamilton, St. Jean de Brébeuf. And when did we applied, I guess, in 2017 for a 2018 grant. I still have COVID brain. I'm in public health. We were kind of busy with COVID, and it's been a long time since I visited this information, so bear with me. But anyway, the high school, it's a very multi-cultural, different ethnic, lots of different ethnicities in Hamilton on the mountain. And one of the unique things about the high school that was really key to getting this grant was that a few years before, they got a big grant from, I believe, the Ministry of Education and the Catholic School Board to take over the school cafeteria. So we already had a cafeteria in the school that was run by a chef teacher, and the students were already involved in sort of the food preparation activities and that sort of stuff. The school at one point also had a greenhouse and some raised garden beds, and so part of our grant was we were really hopeful to kind of reinvigorate that whole thing, get them really growing food, make better links with some of the farmers in the Niagara region and all that sort of stuff. Like so many people have said, our vision really was just that, a vision, and the reality was much smaller, but still a big success. Yeah, so I guess I worked really closely with a public health nurse, and I think that was one of the key parts of the program as well. In our system, there's a public health nurses are assigned to every high school, and often they have been with that high school for a number of years, so they have awesome relationships with the school administrators and the school staff. So Diane has since retired, but she was like the energizer for this whole program. Making the connections between the different classes, pestering the principal and the chef to get on with things. So she was really awesome. The other thing that was real, in the way we work in public health in schools in Ontario is we have what we call health action teams in the schools, and usually they're groups of students. So having them connected with this application and the work was really important too, to sort of get the whole school community buy-in. A lot of the sort of health promotion, mental health promotion activities that the health action team students would work on, we tried to make sure that it linked in some of the activities that were happening in the cafeteria with the salad bar, and just sort of really make sure that the students were aware that that the different links between eating well and mental health as well. What else? Yeah, the other, and one of the question was to talk about some of the challenges, and I think other people have alluded to this as well. But so other than COVID, the other challenges were that we were really tied in with what was called our green industries classes, and they were going to do some of the gardening work and some of the greenhouse work, and then those courses were canceled at the board level. So that sort of put a big wrench in our plans for really expansion of those kind of programs. And then unfortunately, just before the second year, really, public health was pulled out from schools due to COVID. And then so the final year of 2020, it's hard to say what happened. And we sadly have not been back to that school to kind of catch up with them, but it is on my work plan to do that. What else? Yeah, I think that's about it. There's happy to answer any questions. So I think working with high schools has got its pros and cons compared to elementary schools, and it's just interesting to be able to kind of make all those extra connections. I know at one point we were really hopeful to get some of our feeder schools involved, but that didn't happen either. So lots of things to think about for down the road. And I have to say, Maureen, thank you for sharing that, your experience and the work you've done. I know it's more than you, but really, really inspiring and awesome. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And for a small community, it's pretty great. My principal did a lot of grant writing for it, though. So it's not just like you could do that overnight. Obviously, it's a fair bit of,
but it's just
work, I guess.
Awesome. So
yeah,
way to go.
Quite lovely.
Yes.
Very
way
kind
to
of you to say. Thank you.
No problem. You're very welcome.
Thanks so much for sharing your experience, Elizabeth. And yeah, I think we're on to the Q&A period. These are just a few pictures of the program. Yeah, Saint-Jean-de-Brébeuf. So I'm just going to, I think, spotlight all the presenters and Jessie. And we can have a conversation with folks. And so if you would like to ask a question, feel free to either put up your virtual hand or ask it in the question box. I see a couple of questions have already been asked and people have responded. And then, yeah, we can have a conversation and everybody can respond to them. So just curious if we have any starting questions. I think I can ask.
Geneviève Drisdell there.
Perfect, Geneviève. Did you want to ask a question?
I do. My question is for Maureen in specific. I really liked how you mentioned that once you got the community involved, the project really felt like the project had a stronger foundation. And I was wondering if there was anything in specific that you had found that had really brought that engagement like to full force, or if it was the project satisfied a need that was already there. Do you know what I mean?
I think, yeah, I'm leaning towards something that I didn't really mention in my presentation is obviously we understand that our Truth and Reconciliation Day that's coming up on Friday does affect our community involvement with our school as far as parents and families. you know, when my girls were in school, I went to the school a lot, and I'm not trying to say obviously anything judgmental, but there's a certain thought process related to being at the school in First Nation communities, I believe, and the garden is a different avenue for involvement, and it's not a threatening avenue. It's a very welcoming avenue, and I mean, obviously the school is as well, but it was just a different kind of environment for someone to come if they wanted to come and hang out, if they wanted to come and work in the garden. A lot of people buy into the idea of, you know, we're serving our students fresh food. And so I think it has so many positive aspects to it that aren't pencil and paper, sit down and do this, do that kind of a focus. So I think that's largely why the community became involved. And also when we were doing events related to promoting our garden, we would have community events where there would be a spaghetti dinner, or there would be, you know, just a fun event, a couple door prizes and different activities and stations for the kids, and kids can run around, and just everyone coming together and just to be a part of it. And there's a lot of genuine interest in it. And Chief and Council being on board was very important. But I think the people that helped us get the garden going, they got involved. Our local university has people that have become involved. And so it's branched itself out to quite a large degree, but those people, I think networking was really critical to it. So I hope that helps.
It really did. Thank you. That was beautiful.
Good.
Thank you.
I'm glad.
Thanks, Genevieve, and thanks, Maureen. Yeah, just so great to hear about how that worked. We have some questions coming in. Thanks, everybody. And someone also sent me a private note to just ask a specific question, so feel free to do that as well, or ask Jessie about the grants if you would like. So it's a big space for conversation, but the first question that came in is, how can you ensure that the garden beds are respected by the community? The person says they've had incidents of raspberry bushes, et cetera, being ripped out over the summer and after school, and if anybody's found an effective way to address the issue. We'll ask our speakers, and then if somebody else on the call has any experience as well, you're welcome to speak up.
So I know in our community we had similar incidents, and I know that we did put up some video camera surveillance, but unfortunately I don't think that deterred people. But I think what was responded in the chat is kind of similar to what I was going to say. It's honestly, it's getting the community involved and really showing that they have like a part to play. So for us, we know that most likely the children live close to the school, so it was most likely them. So even having that school piece, having them like involved with the curriculum, doing lessons that are involved in the garden, all of these things, I think was the best way to kind of deter. So it still happens to this day, but I think that's the best thing you can do, is just get community involvement and in it, just to show the value of it and really have a part to play, is the only way I think for them to truly respect it in the long run. So hopefully that can help you out, but definitely a difficult situation to monitor.
Thanks, Chantal, and thanks for referencing the note in the chat. Yeah, saying that signage is important, and maybe sharing that it's, you know, a community space and getting people involved. Any other feedback or thoughts that anybody wants to add there? All right, we have a question. Would partnering with the town's summer camps or rec programs be helpful? Does anyone have any experience or thoughts around that question?
That wasn't necessarily a question. That was more so a way to help with garden
Perfect.
vandalism. That's not something that we do in our town.
Great. Do you want to share a little bit more about that, or no need to if you don't?
I don't really know. Like, I'm not involved with the town, but I know that our school, the town soccer fields and a lot of the camps, like, kind of use the school as a home base, and so that our school hasn't had much luck with. We don't have community gardens, but just like in general raised garden beds. So it's a work in progress, but I know that is an avenue that has great potential.
Thanks, Thanks so much for sharing. Any other questions? I don't see any in the chat box. Oh, okay. How did you motivate high school students to get involved? And what about parents? Becky asked a few questions. We can go through them one by one. Actually, I think there is a related one. And then how did you attract people to the team? Did you give them a time commitment and a responsibility list? So I think that's, you know, questions around the people. How did you involve, yeah, students, parents, community members?
I can share, but I can let somebody else speak that who hasn't had the chance first, if you want. No.
Fine by me. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Sounds good. So I think one advantage we have in our high schools is that we do have grade 7-8s that are attached to the high school. So I know we did target grade 7-8s a little bit more than we did the high schools at first, just because of that kind of their involvement. They don't seem as enthusiastic to join. But I think it's just like, even after one growing season, seeing what was happening and kind of really linking it back to their curriculum, telling people that this can be a job of theirs, like, you know, really honing in on those that like to be more hands-on, that like a different way of learning. I think that was a great way to kind of get them involved into the process. And for parents, for us, we really relied on our parent-student council to kind of get that first buy-in, for them to go kind of try to really use them to spread the word. Again, whenever they had a parent-teacher meetings or we're hosting kind of a school event, it was just kind of like showcasing our garden, really letting people know what would their specific tasks be. I think just being specific of what you need from them is an important part to kind of get that buy-in. But yeah, it's probably marketing is the best thing that you could do.
Chantal.
And yeah, I can just add a little bit to that, and also just to say, like, in terms of especially starting out, we really encourage schools, everybody's at a different starting point, but especially in this first kind of now until Christmas and even early in the new year, is not to rush things. Sometimes you can be really excited to get going, but investing that time to share what's happening, get the community excited, maybe start slowly with if you have like school newsletters or your own school kind of social media channels, or however you communicate with parents in the community, start to just sort of introduce little snippets, and then anything right up to hosting. Like, you know, we've heard of schools that there's no better way than to like let people experience the work to get them excited about it. So if you have like parent-teacher interviews, you know, serving some food or getting people out in the garden and letting them experience what the students might be, I think those are some of the like most successful ways that we've heard from other schools in terms of just getting the community excited, and even like rolling things out at pep rallies and just different school events or assemblies. I can put a link to a case study from one of our past grant recipients in Oakville that's done a really great job with that. So maybe kind of spark some ideas. I'll put that in the chat.
Thanks, Jessie. And I see Elizabeth, you talked about the lunch event. Do you want to speak to it?
Sure. So we spent a lot of time with this promo piece once we got the grant, and we had banners made, and I can't remember if we had a banner design contest, but we had student input into sort of the banners that promoted the salad bar and hung above the serving area in the school. And we had a launch event, and they had to fill out they got a free salad, like a taco salad, if they completed a survey, and the survey was kind of to figure out what foods they wanted on the salad bar, what other things they'd like to see in the cafeteria. So it was all kind of packaged together. Funny story that we had a public health epidemiologist helping us with the survey, and she thought our response rate was just incredible. And then I kind of had to tell her, well, it's because they got a salad if they got food for doing it. So anyhow, yeah, so it was just really about kind of making sure that the foods that were offered on the salad bar were what the kids wanted, and also letting them have access to it as much as possible at the sort of special events. I think we did go to a parent council meeting, but in general, parents are not that involved in high schools, in my experience. So, you know, the ones that were there were into it, but it's not the same as elementary school parent councils, let's say that.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. I've heard of a number of those kinds of things, of a, you know, a draw for winning salads, or just salads being given out, or meals from the food service. Just a lot of promotions and posters, and students making posters, and ways to get a lot of hype about it and involvement, and yeah, to make it seem really exciting. So, Maureen or Jenny, did either of you want to speak?
Well, we haven't done it yet, but and that's probably because of COVID. But we did a modified version of a garlic festival, because throughout our terraced food forest, garlic helps to deter rodents. And so there's so much garlic planted up there. And when it's harvested, it was given out to families. There's actually was a food box program as well that utilized a lot of our produce. And so the garlic would be harvested, and then it was given to families, and there were little workshops put on about what you can do with garlic, like recipe cards and how to dry it, how to make garlic powder from it. And I wanted to do like the garlic ice cream and have like but yeah, COVID kind of kiboshed that. So we're hoping for that for next year maybe. And we do also a little at Halloween time, we do an event where we have families come, and there's a scarecrow making contest and pumpkin carving and all of those wonderful Halloween traditional events. And then we pair that with a meal, and it's just kind of a fun thing. You can wear your costume if you want to, and it's kind of hosted in the garden area. So that's usually a really fun thing too. And the doors are always open to anyone that wants to be involved. And there's actually, it's gotten so big now that we actually have staff that come and help us too on a regular basis, because there's so much going on there. So yeah.
It's exciting. Thanks. It's the snowball, eh? Once stuff gets rolling, other people want to be involved. And yeah, well, all those of you are reminding me of just some of the examples of, you know, students doing PSAs and doing little 1-minute clips that are played over the intercom system promoting the salad bar, or tastings in the hallway where, you know, there's a cart and people, you know, are giving out different samples of what's being served, or just the students in different food prep courses doing prepping food, or doing even preserving, and then it gets served. And so if students have been involved in making it, they're much more likely to get excited to eat it. But yeah, thanks all. Jenny, did you want to add anything? About involving students or parents or getting others involved? Jenny said she found it hard to hear, so maybe some technical issues. If you want to jump in at any point, Jenny, feel free. Nicole, are you, if you're going to ask a question, are you okay if I get to a couple of the other questions and then get to you? Fantastic.
I was going to add some
information. Great, perfect. You can go for that.
Okay. So as far as gathering a team, I think don't forget about community connections. So we had a couple schools that reached out to local elders' homes. And you might find in your county or district that you might have a volunteer organization that you could post there. Because we all, I guess from my experience being a mentor in Ontario, we know that teachers, you know, your school community centralizes a little bit, can be busy and tired and all sorts of things. So, you know, you need that in-school connection, but think about casting your net a bit wider for other people to come in and help you purchase the food or help you run the salad bar. And I saw one of the questions was, do we need to buy a salad bar unit? So I'll just offer some experience again with schools on that. They're expensive, those units. And so one thing to think about is, do you have a storage area? Because after you roll that out into the hallway or the gym to serve the kids, where is it going? And some schools are small and you got no storage, so consider that. And also, is it worth the expense, right? So I think it was Jenny that mentioned, just a table with like sort of, what do you call them, food grade, those metal bins out on ice. You can start something simple like that, and that might be the way to start. And then if your salad bar is successful and you want to increase it, then maybe think about one of those big rollaway units. So I hope that's helpful.
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, it's a good segue into that question of, do you need a salad bar unit? And yeah, Jenny, if you are there, it'd be great to hear your perspective moving from just those bins on ice to a salad bar unit. But yeah, would anyone want to speak to that and what impact I think
I can talk about that. I really liked my original. Sorry, you might hear some. I'm outside now. I really liked the way I started off. But if you do that and you get a salad bar after that, you're going to see a big difference. Like, I mean, it's nothing like before. I really liked my new setup now.
Jenny, can you tell us why?
I just think it's easier and it's more presentable. Like I noticed that like the salad bar, when it was on the table with the ice packs, it went well. But I don't know if how kids like realized it, but like I got more people interested in the salad bar once we got the whole unit and everything. So I don't know.
That's a great salad, just that it is more presentable and people are more interested in it. So yeah. Thanks. And does anybody else want to weigh in on, was the salad bar worth it, the unit? Nicole's saying some school boards are particular about where the equipment's purchased from. Yep, they can be. Yeah, we've had a lot of grantees who really wanted to get started quickly on buying a unit and had to delay because the public health inspectors said, oh, I don't know about that model that you've chosen, you need these specifications, and others where it was okay, whatever folks wanted to go with. And so it really depends on the specific public health inspectors or environmental health officers that you have. So yeah, something definitely to check in with them about before you purchase anything.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Chantal.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to add that piece, working for public health, to make sure that you really get in touch with your inspectors before, because they kind of have the final say. So important to become friends with them.
Yep.
Yeah, and I can just say, go ahead. No, go ahead, Marty.
I was just going to say, it's amazing how much salad they'll eat. Once they become familiar with it, you'll see like plates heaped up with salad. They just, I don't know, they get turned on to eating salad. It's really cool.
Thanks, everyone. We had a question come in about how do you get administration and staff on board and motivated to get things going? So yeah, that's often a comment that, you know, if administration is supportive, it can clear so much space to make wonderful things happen. And if there's barriers, it can be a big challenge. So how have people, built it up and I guess work towards a supportive administration and other staff support?
Well, we have a principal that's very, we've changed principals a couple times since this inception of the program, but our principals have been very supportive, and I think they see that the benefits are so worthwhile and the potential for student learning. Of course, that has to be our main focus, and the social emotional benefits. There's just so much positivity around it that for us, maybe we're the lucky ones, but our principals and staff have really embraced it. And some teachers just don't embrace it to the same degree, but you know, even if all you did was go out there and do an art lesson or a little science lesson or, you know, sit and read a book under a tree, that's that's benefiting those students, even if they don't like to work in the garden or the teacher doesn't like to work in the garden, just being in there. There's just so much to be had. Like I saw bees that I didn't know there were these little blue bees. I'd never seen them. And they're out in our garden. So I was like, come over and look at, and I'm, I'm an old lady. So it's kind of, there's just a lot of residual benefits to it. And I think if you can convince your staff and your administration, I can't understand why someone wouldn't want to do it. I mean, there's not a lot of safety issues. There's just so much good. So.
Thanks, Maureen. And I've just added the link to the resource center. We do have a number of videos that folks have made of the impacts that they've seen in their schools, and there's some info sheets as well and statistics that that might be helpful to make your case if you'd like. Connor?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to my question. I think in what I was thinking when I asked was in our particular situation is trying to get the like the foods teacher on board and other people who would be involved in the actual like lunch program or service, because we were thinking that maybe the students could prepare some of the meal during foods like right before lunch, and sometimes it can be tough if that teacher is more focused on baking or things like that, and teachers are kind of just waiting for it to happen. So if anything, it's just kind of a balance of, you don't want to coerce people into giving themselves or their, a little bit more time. And yeah, just wondering if there's a fine line or how you've gotten more involvement or maybe put on a presentation for teachers and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one thing I can share is just some links to videos and pictures, and we could also connect them to some foods teachers who have done it before, if that would be helpful, if folks want to ask questions of like, okay, why did you do this and what impact did it have? So let us know if you need any links there.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, any other thoughts?
I can just say too, sorry, I'll just add briefly there too that I think one of the things with kind of making programs or helping programs to be really fully embraced, sorry, I'm like, sorry for the sunspots on my face, I'll move over. Helping programs to be embraced is allowing like people to kind of come to it in their own time and start small, maybe offer, like if a foods teacher is excited to start with like baking, that's okay. Like what would excite them? What do they like? Maybe start there. And help like allow them to just sort of experience it a little bit and then slowly kind of start to flex that muscle. Because definitely we don't want to rush things or have anybody feel forced. We want, one of the great things with these programs is there's so much opportunity to connect through food. It doesn't necessarily have to be prepping and serving it. Some of the examples we've heard, like getting students involved in like, it might be the actual construction of like raised garden beds or creating posters, or like there's different ways to kind of tap into what folks are interested in. So yeah, might be a little bit of exploration on those grounds.
Any other thoughts from other?
I was part of another grant proposal or grant application, and the other thing is the food teacher, you can use another teacher to help be the champion with the food teacher. That's the only thing I can think of, because as long as you find some teachers around the table, some educators, often they can have a little bit of like positive influence on the other teachers in the school. And like Jessie said, like if they're into baking, I don't know, bake the croutons, do something, bake cracker, like you find, meet them where they're at, and then they'll I would hope get on board with you.
Thanks everyone, and good luck, Connor. Yeah, as I said, just let us know if you need some connections. 2 other questions have come in. We have about 5 more minutes. Jessie, did you want to say much at the end, or do we just go for those questions? And okay, one of the questions is, how are other schools securing funds to ensure that all the hard work is going to be sustainable financially? And then how do you make it work with no cafeteria, no foods program, which is a really big question. So if anybody wants to touch on any of those, one being how do you get the finances to you know, pull together a longer term plan, and then, you know, how do you make it work when you have limited space and capacity?
I haven't experienced that myself, the limitations as far as financial. We've been, as I say, we've been pretty fortunate as my principal will write grants, and that's how he's secured a lot of the funding. And because we're an Indigenous community, there is probably a bit more funding available. But if you have a food policy council in your town, or gleaning programs or anything like that, maybe to reach out to them, or if you're wanting your high school students to get involved, maybe they could start researching and find out. And we have in BC, there's a fruit and veggie program as well. So they deliver fruit and vegetables to schools, and then students can, you know, well, I've never tried kiwi or whatever it is. And so we get a delivery of, I think we still get them. But anyway, we used to always get these deliveries of cherry tomatoes or peppers, and, you know, kids are munching away and really enjoying that. And maybe that might be one avenue to check out. Just volunteer groups, I think, was previously mentioned as well. And just, yeah, connecting with maybe your local farmers market and say, hey, you know, we're wondering how we can kind of get this happening at our school. And if there's nowhere to prepare it, that's a tough one. I don't know if I know too much about how to answer that one. Sorry.
Jessie?
Thanks. I know we're like waiting. Who's going first? Yeah, really great questions. I can say and actually kind of a good segue as well, just as a reminder, to check out the resource center before our October 18th session, because the short video snippets Carolyn mentioned, there's some really good question-based ones, some of which are around like, how do you make the funding model work? And so there's some good suggestions there around, for instance, like how, you know, charging like a pay what you can for a salad bar, for instance, but there's a bit of cost recovery that helps to kind of go into sustaining the program. Some schools, you know, harvest things from their local garden and engage the students in making like salves and lip balms and things like that, and host a little fair and sell it, or plant starters. So there's lots of different ways that schools kind of creatively make that possible, and it's different in every community, also different funding opportunities available. And then in terms of the definitely tricky, we know a lot of schools aren't necessarily designed with food in mind. So there's some good examples of schools being creative in terms of how they prep and serve really a large number of students, often without any space. That can vary from, you know, using a staff galley kitchen to partnering with a local center where you can maybe prep things off-site, a little bit more logistics, but bring it into the school. So all kind of things to explore, and there's no sort of one size fits all answer, but certainly we can provide some links, and there's lots in the resource center to ways that some other schools have done it. And otherwise, just connecting in with your community is probably the number one thing, because there's great ideas. And often folks, if you put the feelers out, that are willing to get involved and help be creative in that respect. And yeah, sorry, I think there was something else I was going to say to that effect, but I feel like that kind of sums it up.
Thanks, Jessie. Yeah, you gave a lot of different options, and yeah, we've seen a lot of really creative ways that that folks make it work. It's just, yeah, the how, and given the different constraints and opportunities at the specific schools and in the specific communities. One other person put in the chat, consider partnering with a local library who may or may not have a kitchen space. So yeah, there's all sorts of community resources that folks tap into. With that, Jessie, do you want to just give a quick goodbye? Just a big thank you to our speakers and to everybody who came today. There's been a lot of really good sharing, and yeah, it'll be really lovely to connect again in October.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just echo that. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining, and to our speakers. And please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. That's what we're here for, to support and connect. And I know all of you probably have lots of great ideas to share. So we look forward to delving into that a little bit more when we meet again in a few weeks. Thanks so much, everyone.